What's going on, guys? Welcome back to my channel, and this is another Undertaker related video, and it's about his emotional struggles not being in WrestleMania this year after retiring last year in Survivor Series. WWE legend The Undertaker reveals emotional struggles watching WrestleMania 37 and started second guessing retirement. Let's just assume that he is thinking about coming out of retirement, but in his heart he knows that he needs to stay retired for himself and for his own sake, for his family's sake. You have to be a man of your word and not break it. The 56-year-old, real name Mark Calloway, retired from the WWE at Survivor Series last year after 30 years with the company. And while he acknowledges it was the right time to step away from the business, he also insists it was incredibly tough watching WrestleMania without featuring in a matchup himself. Speaking to Digital Spy, he said, "I was fine all the way until the first ballyhoo of fireworks. Fortunately, I was home, which made it a little easier, but going through the show and watching, keep thinking to myself, should I be there? I had to work through that. It's a little difficult once WrestleMania starts. I started second guessing myself. So much of my history revolves around WrestleMania. There was a bit of an emotional tug of the heartstrings watching this year, but it's time for me to step aside and let this next generation have the reins and go where they going to." Now, I like what he says. Even though it's really hard for him to stay retired because he knows WrestleMania is nothing without The Undertaker. So, and he also mentioned something here which I'm going to get to in a few minutes. But going back to what he said earlier about sitting at home just watching WrestleMania, knowing and thinking that he should be there, started second guessing himself, wondering that he should be there. Should he be there? Because when there's a live audience there for the first time since the pandemic, I would think people will go absolutely bonkers. And mind you, he can make an appearance but not wrestle. I think that will help. That will make him feel better. He also went on to say, well, The Undertaker is notorious for his undefeated WrestleMania streak, which ran from 1991 to 2014. After 21 victories in a row, the runtime came to an end in 2014 when he was beaten by Brock Lesnar. He appeared 5 more times at WrestleMania between 2015 and 2020, and before his final appearance last year, he defeated AJ Styles. Now, the match with Brock Lesnar in 2014 was still being talked about to this day, and people got to remember that he basically didn't really care about the streak. I feel like sometimes people miss the mark. You know, when a wrestler is undefeated, I sometimes feel like they don't even care about the streak. It was basically his decision to, or Vince McMahon's decision to end the streak, or whichever the case, one of them decided to end the streak alone. But I think, to me, looking back at it now, and it's been documented in the documentary, you know, Brock Lesnar, he revealed that he went to the hospital with The Undertaker and with his wife to check on him and make sure he was okay. And I think a lot of people were so quick to get upset and still have that streak in their mind instead of acknowledging what went on behind closed doors. When Brock Lesnar went to the hospital with The Undertaker to make sure that his condition was so. And I think, to me, a lot of people not realizing that Brock actually cared about The Undertaker's health. Not a lot of wrestlers did that back then. So the fact that it's been documented in The Last Ride, it shows. He added, "About halfway through that night with AJ, I knew that it was it for me. it became really obvious throughout the course of that night that I could no longer physically do things the way I wanted to do them. And I refused to ever shortcut our fans. The Undertaker is widely regarded as one of the greatest WWE superstars of all time and has competed in more WrestleMania matches than anyone else, with a startling 27 appearances to his name. You can clearly tell the match with AJ Styles was a sign of retirement, and you knew at some point that he really wanted to retire and go out on top, and that's exactly what he did. And plus, the match alone was really good. You see my reaction to that match last year, and I'm glad that he realizing that his time is up, so you can't go on like you used to. Now, here's my overall thoughts on feeling emotional strain and not being in WrestleMania this year. I can tell it can cause you to get depressed and sad because you're nothing without WrestleMania. It's just like you going on a diet when the doctor tells you you have to stop eating certain things and you have to eat the right things to help you lose the weight. It can be a struggle. You miss eating foods that you used to eat, and while you're losing weight, you know you have no choice but to get on the right path to get the weight down. And then once you lose the weight, you go back to eating foods that you usually eat, but eat on the moderations. That's just like how The Undertaker is when he retired from the WWE. He can appear in WrestleMania but not wrestle. Now do you actually think about it? So I kind of understand where he's coming from with this. It could be an emotional toll. You know, you miss being in live events. And when you look at WrestleMania 37 this year with a crowd being there for the first time since the pandemic, you can tell that he really wanted to be there based on the tone and how he felt. So I kind of knew what he was talking about, and I can relate to that as well with the diet that I was on last year and him retiring from the WWE. If you want the article, I will have it in the description below. So yeah, you guys take it easy, and I will see you tomorrow.